this I thought was really weird and interesting. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if you heard about this, Dave. So this is from a site called Games Radar Plus. And it says DC announces its biggest ever online event. It will feature Wonder Woman 1984, the Batman, the Suicide Squad, and more. Zack Snyder's Justice League, Black Adam, and a whole lot more will feature in the Fandome event. And it says, buckle up, superhero fans, as DC has announced its biggest ever online event. With San Diego Comic-Con going online this year, DC has decided to start its own virtual event, Fandome, which will be accessible for anyone for free. No badge required. For 24 hours, the website will be accessible around the world, offering fans of the biggest movies, TV shows, and comics coming over the next few years. It says Warner Brothers has pulled out all the stops when it comes to the movies they will be showing off at the event, including The Batman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, The Suicide Squad, and Wonder Woman 1984. While talent has yet to be officially confirmed, Dwayne Johnson has confirmed he'll be part of the event to promote his anti-villain movie, Black Adam. Anti-villain, interesting. I haven't heard that term before. The official release teases new announcements from WB Games, film and TV, and comics, including Aquaman, The Batman, Batwoman, Black Adam, Black Lightning, DC Superhero Girls, DC Legends of Tomorrow, DC Stargirl, Doom Patrol, The Flash, Harley Quinn, Lucifer, Pennyworth, Shazam, The Snyder Cut, The Suicide Squad, Supergirl, Superman and Lois, Teen Titans Go, Titans, Watchmen, Young Justice, Outsiders, and Wonder Woman 1984. It says one of the more surprising entries there is Watchmen. While the main series and Doomsday Clock spin-off comic series finished a while back, HBO released a sequel TV series that introduced new characters and added content to familiar ones. So, I mean, there's just a ton of stuff. It says that it's going to happen on August 22nd at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I don't know. What do you think about this, Dave? Because I feel like this is them trying to one-up San Diego Comic-Con's announcement, and it sounds to me like they're not going to participate in San Diego Comic-Con's virtual con.
Yeah, I'd say that sounds, pretty much on the money. And, as far as maybe, bypassing San Diego and doing their own thing. But, the reality of it is, unless they're doing a presentation in Hall H, I don't see why you would necessarily. I mean, just because they partnered with them in the past doesn't mean they need to partner with them again. And there's been, occasionally there's been issues, with that partnership with San Diego from time to time. So I'm not too terribly surprised that they're not really being concerned with partnering with San Diego to do this promotion, because it's online and they have their own channels, and I don't see necessarily where they would. Now, if you bring up the idea of loyalty to San Diego and wanting to continue to, be a part of that fandom and that community, I don't know if they're going to be thinking in those kind of terms. That's just being honest.
Well, they're not thinking in those terms at all, obviously. I would say this is obviously, we could care less about that relationship and that whole thing. That's the way I take it.
Right. And that's not a huge shock to me. But I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what kind of content they're going to put out, because, if this is basically just like a 24-hour thing. So it's almost like they're going to take all this content, they're going to produce it, and they're going to have available for 24 hours. So you got 24 hours to go in there and digest all this content that you can, and then someone's going to throw a switch and it's all going to be turned off. So I don't know how this is going to work. It's going to be pretty nuts. It's going to be pretty crazy. And it'll, we'll just have to see how well this does or does not work. I've always been kind of surprised.
Well, the interesting thing is that San Diego will be first. That's also interesting to me.
Yeah, but I don't know. I honestly, I still don't understand, even though you were one of the first people to bring up this idea of an online convention, I still don't understand how some of this stuff is really supposed to connect and work with people. Like I've been a part of a couple things kind of here and there, and it's kind of fun and interesting, but we don't have the connection in that I have right now with the Rogues Gallery. I mean, if someone responds in the Rogues Gallery, we respond right back right away, and it's a real dialogue between us and people who enjoy the show and people who have something interesting to say in regards to what we're talking about on the show. And it does, in a sense, replicate some of that feel of doing a panel at a convention. Like you're talking about your topic and someone in the back of the room hollers out, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking. Like we have that going on right now, and in all of these attempts to do this sort of like, it's going to be content like at a panel at a convention and no. And it's like, but they don't really interact with the people that are watching. It's like, well, so it's just sort of like a regular streaming show and you're not really connecting with anyone. I don't know. So we'll see. I mean,
I have seen virtual cons where they've been doing that. In fact, I mentioned that on the air. There was one that I was going to kind of promote more on the show. I decided not to because what they were doing was they were actually using Twitch, and they were using Twitch to host their panels, and then that would allow connectivity where people could do questions. But if you wanted to do the original airing, you had to pay. And then on the reruns of the panel, you could just watch it for free. And so I thought that was an interesting model, but at the same time, it was kind of like, I don't really want to pay for this virtual thing. I can understand how, why they were doing it that way. I'm not trying to necessarily dismiss them, but I wasn't going to be promoting them when that might be an issue for people that were struggling financially. The good thing about San Diego Comic-Con this year, and also even this DC event, is that they are being advertised as free. So I'm hoping that although they are free, they will still allow that kind of interactivity that other event that I'm not going to name because it did charge, where they were allowing people to do questions because the technology's there. Just like you said, just like what we're doing right here, we could do this easily as a sort of panel format, with other creators and stuff like that. We could do a panel. In fact, you even talked about doing something like that, some sort of a virtual artist alley to coincide with San Diego Comic-Con.
Right, as sort of like a lead up or something, which I still think would be an interesting show to do. But I haven't seen anyone who's really done just a super stellar job of connecting with people, in the manner in which I think is totally possible. Like, for example, James just posted up, blah, blah, blah. And then if we were in a panel room in a convention, I would say, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Hollering trademark Dracula from the back of the room. I know exactly what you mean, James. So that's what I'm talking about. It's not quite as interactive and as interesting as I think it could be. Because to me, it just sounds like they're going to produce a bunch of content and make it available for 24 hours. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. I'll check it out. The San Diego event, I'm just going to avoid because I don't see what the point in that is, to be honest. It's weird because it's like some of the convention exclusives, for example, have been going to different sort of retailers, with like WonderCon and Emerald City. I've been debating about trying to pick up that Captain Atom Funko Pop, for example, because I'm a huge Captain Atom fan. So that's the precursor for Dr. Manhattan for you kids at home. But anyhow, I've been thinking about picking it up, but it was originally supposed to be like an Emerald City Comic Con exclusive, I think. And then they put it on Amazon, and I don't know. It's just I don't know. I don't know. Darn COVID's just messed everything up.
Yeah, well, I think that it can be done better. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement. And I'm very interested to see what San Diego does, how they manage it. And I kind of feel like DC is going to let them be the guinea pig, even though, DC and Time Warner, I should just say AT&T. I should just say AT&T from now on. AT&T is apparently not, I'm sure they're not going to support San Diego Comic-Con since they're doing their own event. So I feel like what they're going to do is kind of see how the San Diego event goes and learn from it. and that's kind of their game plan. That's the way I take this.
Right. And it's interesting because, like, for example, when they rolled out the DC Universe, I hate picking out the DC Universe app, but when they rolled out the DC Universe app, they talked about how it was supposed to be this unique way for fans to connect, right? So when I went on there, I set up my profile. I went on some interesting sort of like little threads, kind of like message board threads where people were talking about things. And I went in there and I tried to interact with people. And I was like, oh, I worked on that book. And that book is a lot of fun. And I threw out some interesting factoids and stuff and whatever. And absolutely nobody responded whatsoever. It was like friggin' crickets. So that's what I'm saying. It's like I have yet to see where the big companies are able to really connect with the fans, and I don't understand why it's so friggin' difficult, because, like, for example, James was just talking about, he just posted that toy and statue releases maybe. I know exactly what you're talking about, James. He's hoping they're going to be talking about some of that stuff and showcasing it. I'm curious if they'll do that on this I would assume they would do that with this fandom event that they're going to be doing. But here's what I really want to know. Since it's the Fandome, is each one going to start with like an image of the Legion of Doom headquarters if it's coming out of the swamp, and that the Fandome is actually happening inside the Legion of Doom's headquarters? Like, can that be DC's version of Hall H? Maybe it should be Hall D, the Hall of Doom.
That's pretty cool, actually. That's pretty cool, actually.
That's what I would have done, because that's where my event would be happening. It'd be happening in the Hall of Doom. So maybe hosted by Lex Luthor and Mantis and Gorilla Grodd. Something kind of fun.
Yeah, Bobby seems to like that idea. It's giving him a chuckle. So,
well, there you go.
No, that is a good. I like that. I like that idea quite a bit. But the other side of this for me is I just feel that this does show a complete lack of loyalty that AT&T has for its former partners. Right now the convention circuit, the convention industry is hurting really, really bad. So the fact that you're going to just go ahead and do your own thing and not participate in this event that's been a cornerstone of pop culture for so many years, I don't know. To me, it gives me a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth.
No loyalty to previous important contributors and partners. Say it ain't so, Eric. Especially
I know, Dave, you have no personal experience in this, especially with DC. I know we're not talking about you.
I have none whatsoever. I don't know what you're talking about as I cry into my beer.